So welcome back, everyone. And for this session, we've got a demonstration where Caroline Beckett, who's a Master Certified Coach, EMCC Senior Practitioner, and ESQA, all the acronyms, accredited supervisor, will be providing a demonstration with Sarah Harrison. Thank you very much, Sarah, for volunteering as well to support us in our learning today. So over to you, Caroline.
Amazing. So thank you again to Sarah, because it's I always feel it's a brave feat to put yourself out here as a willing victim for a demonstration. So thank you for that, Sarah. I have just popped in the chat the EMCC supervision competencies. So we could play a little game as we're observing this session. Maybe you could have the competency document open and you could see what is there in this session, what comes up, what competencies are matched to the performance today, to our demonstration. So thank you to Claire for the introduction, and Sarah, because we have a global audience here, I'd just like to open up the floor to just say, is there anything you'd like people to know about you before we actually dive into the supervision?
Hello, everybody. I'm Sarah, as I've already been introduced. I am from the UK, currently living in Munich. I've completed level 1 and 2. I'm working hard to get my hours done so I can get accredited. Yeah, and that's where I'm at in my coaching journey.
Wonderful. So we'll just do with your permission, Sarah, we'll touch base again around our reliance, because obviously we know with the fluidity of supervision and it can change, what you need might change from session to session. So in relation to what you need today from me, is there anything in particular that jumps out?
No, I mean, I love the way we work. You can be directive, you can share, you can challenge me. Yeah, any of the above. I'll be very happy.
I love that.
I trust you.
And I think everyone, you can probably see these are things that we've covered before, you know, how directive or non-directive would you like me to be? That challenge piece is always something, challenge kindly, but the challenge is always there in our sessions, isn't it? Great. So what would you like to bring to our supervision session today?
Thinking ahead to a time when I'm sort of working independently as a coach and sort of touting for business, selling my wares. I think what I'm stuck with is really my identity as a coach. Who am I? What am I offering? What is my USP? Like, who am I? And I think it would be really helpful to just sort of explore that.
We both love a bit of exploration, don't we? Good stuff. In relation to us exploring that, is there anything in particular you might need by the end of our around 30-minute demo together, or anything you'd like to come away with?
Nothing specific. But really, I hope to have a better kind of had an opportunity to reflect on things, looked at things from different perspectives, and given me some food for thought, really, so that I can go away and ponder a little further. But nothing concrete, if that's okay.
Absolutely great. You talked about reflecting there already. When you have been reflecting in relation to your identity as a coach, what's come up so far?
I just feel like I love coaching, and it is something that I want to do much more of. I'm really lucky I have the opportunity to do that in my work currently, but I'm quite kind of daunted by the prospect of going independent and being really confident in who I am as a coach. There are many coaches out there. I currently work in education, and there are, you know, lots of people coaching school leadership, for example. But I'm like, what makes me special? What is, why would people come to me? I think that's where I sort of sit. Yeah. What's so special about me?
So there's two things that I heard there. There was the daunted feeling, and then there was a, so what's so special about me?
Yeah.
Where should we go first?
Maybe the first one. Look, I said it first. It must be prominent. That must be the most important thing. I said it first. Right. So we'll go for the feeling daunted by the prospect. Yeah. Overwhelmed, like quite anxious about it.
So what can we do here together to sort of consider that?
I don't know. Tell me. Give me some help. What might
I mean, with your permission, I can share a little about my background and how I came into coaching and the process that I followed. Might that be helpful?
Yeah, I'd love to hear that. Yeah.
So I was, as you know, I was also an educator for many years and worked overseas as you do. And I transitioned very gradually and grew my coaching business. And I didn't leave education behind for quite some time. And I was running, kind of two things simultaneously. So I had the essential paying the bills and the mortgage and those kinds of things. And that's where the education piece came in. And then I was spending time building my confidence, so I felt less daunted, and growing the business. So I can't say whether this is the right thing or the wrong thing to do. I can only offer that running the two things simultaneously made me feel a bit less daunted because I felt I had security, but I also had the excitement and the freedom of doing something that I loved. And it was a process, and for me that took about 5 years. And then there was a process of growing into, like you said, identity as a coach and what I was offering and my niche and gaining that experience. What are your thoughts around that sharing? Was there anything there that might be helpful or not?
Definitely. And again, building my confidence. Sorry, that my dog's driving me mad. He's on my lap. Just wants to go. Apologies. Hello. So I think, yeah, the idea, I mean, I'm certainly building my confidence as in coaching, and the conversations that I'm having at work. And I have people that I have coaching sessions with that are not related to work as well. So that's definitely building my confidence. I don't know if I want to wait 5 years. And also, I genuinely don't know if I would have the energy to do my full-time job, which is demanding. I'm a school leader. There's a lot to do, and have the energy or the flexibility in my time to build a business alongside it. So at some point, I'm going to have to make a leap and say, this is not for me anymore. And it's interesting, we had some photographers in school today, and the lady that comes with them is lovely. And I've been working now with her. This is the 3rd time I've worked with her. And she's a former school leader, just a former principal, and she was asking me all about that, where I'd worked and where I'd been and what my next step might be. And for the first time, I think ever, I just really confidently said, my next move will not be a move within education. I will do something else. And I genuinely felt like, oh, I've said it. Felt quite proud of myself. I felt quite empowered. I was like, okay, yeah, this is happening because I've told somebody now. And but still there's like some fear, like, or at some point I've got to do this without the security of maybe a steady income and, never worked for myself. I've got to sell my wares, sell myself. So yeah, that's still a bit scary. Yeah.
Reflecting on that and the fact that you've articulated it and vocalized it for the first time to somebody that, you know, you're not close friends or family, what impact has that had on you?
I think it's made it feel more real. This has been like a kind of pipe dream. Yeah, it's something I'll do, it's something I'll get to. But now, having vocalized it, I'm like, no, I really have to do that now. I don't, if I say I'm going to do something, I'm the sort of person that does it. And so now I feel like, okay, that's out there. In 12 months' time, she's going to come back. Now I might still be there, and that's fine. That's okay. But I don't want to be there in like 8 or 9 years' time when she comes back. You know what I mean? Like, I need to make good on this promise I've made to myself. And yeah, I don't have anything to prove to anyone else, but I don't want to be like, oh, I thought you were going to do this. Like, no, I didn't want to do that. I wasn't brave enough. Or I don't want to have that conversation. Does that sound silly?
No, it doesn't sound silly. It sounds, from what I know of you, very logical and sensible.
Yeah. So I guess I just need to get my ducks in a row, get these hours done, all of that sort of thing. Save up my money. So I've got a bit of a buffer there. And create a plan. But it does seem like a really big thing to do, because it would also mean a change of location. I couldn't stay here. I wouldn't have a visa, so I would need to go back to the UK, which is also like another, like, it's a big thing. Yeah.
Just like to acknowledge, wow, that's a lot.
It's quite a lot.
It's a profession, it's a change of location, it's a change of identity, really, which brings us back to your goal, which was around this idea of your identity as a coach, and how might that feed into this feeling left daunted?
I don't know. Like, I guess I hadn't really put the two things together. I think I thought them were two quite separate things. Like, there's a lot to do. That's from a very, and I'm keeping that on like a very practical level. Like, I've got to make sure that I've got, like, financially, I'm going to be okay for a bit. That I've got some options if the coaching work doesn't come in quite as quickly as I'd like. You know, and moving back and all of those sorts of things. And leaving Germany, like, that's a mission in itself. And so there's that. That's very practical. This is much more emotional. Like, it's about me really thinking about perhaps what my strengths are, what I'm good at. You know, I'm very good at identifying what I'm not very good at. But I'm quite sort of, I don't really celebrate myself very much. I don't really do that. And I feel like I've got to, or I need to.
It sounds, from an outsider looking in, like this might be your growth edge. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's one of them. Yeah, or a growth edge, or the growth edge. It's definitely something I need to work on. Yeah, so I can confidently enter this new chapter with a new identity. Not, just a new. I've been doing the same job for so long, and it's not changing my personality, but I'm changing the way that I live my life and all those sorts of things. And I've got to look at things with a very fresh pair of eyes. The job I have is very secure. I don't need to worry about money each month. I've got a job, it's safe. This is much more of a risk. Yeah, so maybe the two things are tied. Yeah. Okay. I'd like just somebody just to tell me what I'm brilliant at and just say this is what you need to be doing. So can you do that, please?
Well, we can absolutely identify some strengths. I'm sure we'll come up with a multitude of possible strengths. But I'm curious about something.
Okay.
And I'm hearing on the one hand the excitement, and I'm hearing on the other hand the fear. And I'm wondering what beliefs we might need to tackle around that, like what's underneath it all.
I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. I think this just feels enormous. And I've done other enormous things, you know, but this feels like, yeah, just really big. I don't know. I don't know what it is. What if it works out? It'd be absolutely brilliant. And I would be like working independently, doing something I really enjoy. I'd have some flexibility in my work life. It would be great. And I would no longer be working with teenagers and teachers. Brilliant. I've had enough, I'm tired. But on the other hand, like, what if it doesn't? What might that look like? And I think that's where it's like, what if it works? That's ace, but it might not. And maybe
Where do we want our energy to go today? Do we want to go to what if it works, or do we need to go to what if it doesn't?
No, I don't even want to think about what, because I just want to make this work. I don't want to go to the negative. Not today.
Okay.
Okay.
So what will help you then in relation to your identity? Because you know you've brought that, and it seems to have come up on a number of occasions. What will help you in relation to your identity to start taking control?
I wonder if it would be useful. I have people I work with in a coaching capacity, but also in other aspects of my sort of life, my professional life, that I have conversations with who know me really well. And maybe would it be silly if I did like almost like a 360? Like, what are my strengths as a coach? Who am I? Who do you think I am? You know, because I could say I am this and I am that and blah, blah, blah. That could be so far from reality that perhaps so maybe I do need other people to kind of help me to understand who I am. And does that align with where I want to be? And if so, brilliant. If not, then do I shift where I want to be, or do I, come up with some strategies to get where I want to be? Does that make sense?
It does, and I'm curious then in these different systems in which you're living and working, where might be good to gather that data?
I mean, I could do it really formally, through a Google form, but I don't know if that's the way I want to do it. Maybe some conversations and to reflect Oh, what about have a reflective conversation with some of my clients or coachees around the impact that the coaching is having, and then gather some information that, like, you know, as a coach, am I this or that or the other? Maybe. I don't know. I've only just thought of this. It's just all. It's a seed of an idea.
I'm loving the seed. And I'm also curious, and I'm going to offer an invitation here, Sarah, so take it or don't, it's entirely up to you. I know you'll have a pen and paper.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, here we go.
I'd like to invite you, and tell me if you prefer not to just take a moment to reflect around, at this moment in time, what comes to mind when you think about yourself as a coach?
Okay. Okay, it's flowing. Okay. Okay.
Another challenge, Sarah, if you're willing.
Well, we'll
Push
see.
yourself, potentially push yourself to write 2 or 3 more things on there.
Okay. Okay.
So what would you like us to do with what you now have?
I don't know if we need to do anything right now. I've got them here. Yeah, I've got them here. I don't necessarily need to share them with you right now, although would that help? I don't know.
The session here, Sarah, is yours. So what do you feel would be most helpful?
Okay, I'll show what I've written.
As you wish.
Okay. Right, so I'm open, I'm trusted by my colleagues and the people that I coach. I think they trust me as a coach because certainly the ones that I work with in my work context, I have a wealth of experience and I'm not judgmental. You know, I have worked in a wide variety of contexts and cultures, like all over the place. I'm empathetic. I have a lot of experience in educational leadership. I'm heavily invested in people. And I would say that I have a really strong, positive, like, standing in the community in which I work. So I'm respected. And so people seek me out to get a coach. That's happened quite a few times this week, actually. People are like, I've heard you're doing coaching. Can we do this and that? So that's sort of what's come to mind at the minute. But how do I transfer? I guess, like, how do I transfer that? What else am I going to need in order to, like, really solidify what I am? I think I would need to ask a few people, like, and see where they are, and is my perception aligned? Like, do people see me in this way, or do they see me in another way, and I might get some surprises, like, oh, I didn't realize that. Or I hadn't thought about that. So I'm open to, because I'm sure they'll be nice. But maybe, yeah, I need to have some, yeah, reflective kind of conversations about how coaching's going and those sorts of things. And I think I can do that. Well, I know I can do that with 3 or 4 people that I'm currently working with. Yeah.
Might I offer something, Sarah?
Please do, yeah.
So thinking back a decade when I was in a very similar position to you, I remember somebody asked me the question, and it really resonated with me at the time. So what are your values as a coach?
Yeah, okay.
And I thought, oh, that's really quite interesting. And then I you know, in constructing the website, the first iteration of the website, it was, okay, so what do I need to communicate ultimately with the world? Because much like yourself, you know, the work I do is extremely international. What do I need to communicate with the world about who I am as a person and what values I bring to the work that I do?
Okay.
And actually, I don't know about for you, but for me, the process of gathering that information and then actually having to write it and edit it and fine tune it, and then the big step of actually putting it out there into the public domain, they were quite big milestones for me in my development. So I'm wondering what might be here that might help you.
I think that you've kind of, like, what resonates there is you know, I've had this idea for a website on the back burner for so long, you know, and I've had this idea on the back burner for so long, and it is a bit of like, okay, well, I've got to sit down and do this. I think this will help to gather some information and then just crack on and do it. Just got to do it. Yeah, where are my values? I think that's a nice thing for me to think about. I put some things down already. I'll think about that, gather some feedback, and then and then write something. But I'm going to ask a couple of people to look at it and say, firstly, is this a true reflection of who I am? And, you know, is this what, you know, get some sort of feedback in that. What I don't want to do is pretend to be this and that and the other, and then I coach people who have a very different experience. I want what I say to really reflect who I am.
And what I'm hearing there is the word authenticity, I think.
Yeah. Okay.
So reflecting on this conversation, Sarah, where are we now in relation to this emerging identity?
So I didn't necessarily expect to have goals or, you know, a clear set of action points from this conversation. I was like, we'll just have a chat and see where it goes. But I've got some action points here. I'm going to have a little bit more of a think about, you know, the things that I've written down. What else can I add to the list, and challenge myself to put a few more things down. I'm going to have some conversations with the people that I coach currently around what I am actually like as a coach, like who am I, and then start putting the pieces together. And perhaps what I need to do is worry less about who I'm going to be coaching, but more about who I am as a coach.
And it's really interesting. Sorry to interrupt, Sarah.
So worry less about who I'm going to coach and more about who I am as a coach. And if I put my authentic self out there, then trust that actually people will come to me. Obviously it's not that easy. You do need to go and sell yourself, etc. I'm not just gonna, oh hooray, she's finally got a website up. Let's sign up, if only. But yeah, that's a bit of a shift in my thinking. I think that's a big shift in my thinking as a result.
And it's really interesting because on the tip of my tongue was, so who are these prospective clients? And what you've done is said, actually, this and me is more important, and they will come. You know what I love, Sarah? I love that piece around the faith in yourself and the faith in your expertise and your experience and the professionalism and all of those other things that I know are there from the work that we've done together that seem to be coming together.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm sensing some emotion there. I'm not sure.
I am a little bit. I'm tearing up a
Mm.
little bit. The
Mm.
lighting's a bit dim in here. I was hoping that you wouldn't see that. But yeah, thanks for pointing it out.
What just happened?
I feel quite proud of myself. But thank you for, it was you guiding this conversation, like making me think about things from different perspectives. But yeah, I think I've made a real shift there. I'm worrying, yeah, quite proud of myself. Yeah. I mean, I'm still quite daunted by the prospect, but we've got a step, and yeah, just do it.
In relation to just do it, who or what might be able to, for that bit of support along the way, if you are starting to feel the dauntedness coming?
I've got support of my friends and family, absolutely. I can talk things through. I also, have a number of contacts in the coaching community who I can have conversations with and work things out. And I know that, I mean, my current employers are really, really supportive of this stage of my career and in terms of coaching and professional development, which is great. So I can do lots of work. So yeah, that's really good. I don't have that pressure. Yeah, I'm okay. I've got people.
Thank you for your work today, Sarah.
Thank you. That was great.
What might be a good way for us to sort of lead our way out of this supervision together?
I just want to say thank you. Thanks for sharing. Thank you for challenging me. Thank you for, I don't know what you did. You performed some sort of magic that shifted my thinking. So yeah, I just want to say thank you.
You're very welcome. And as a community, the CoachME community, we thank you for giving up your time and being so vulnerable in front of us all. That's something that is really admirable. So thank you very much, Sarah. We'll be moving into a Q&A session next around the more sort of nuts and bolts of supervision in that session. So you're very welcome to stay for the learning. And I'll hand back over to Claire. If Claire is there. Hopefully she is. There she is.
Fantastic. Thank you, Sarah, and thank you, Caroline. So, Caroline, what way would you like to answer the uncovering of the process and any questions?
I think it's lovely to hear people's voices, but I'm also conscious that not everybody will want to speak. So my philosophy is fire out the questions and I'll do my best to respond.
Brilliant. So anyone any questions?
And maybe at the end of our Q&A, we can come back to Sarah and just maybe touch base with her around the process itself. But we'll give her a bit of breathing space first. I can see some familiar names here, so I'm hoping that we get some really good questions or observations, or if anybody did the quiz and looked at the competencies, what did they see?
So I'm thinking as well, Caroline, there was a couple of times when there was choice points. Say more about what was supporting your choice in one direction or another.
Well, largely, yes, I will share in supervision sessions, but my style is largely collaborative. And so it's about empowering the client to make their own decisions about where the session goes. If we think of even coaching competencies, they're in there. So that's the sort of style that I have. I can offer, and obviously Sarah gave me permission to offer and share, etc. But primarily, I want the supervisee to feel that they have full control in the process. And so the choices largely were her choices, or that's certainly what was going on in my head in terms of my process.
When I was putting a few copy pasting some of the competencies into the chat, and it just reminded me, Eve Turner and others talk a lot about a fourth leg of the supervision stool. So obviously there's different wording and different people, but going from Proctor years ago, the resourcing, the restoring, the benchmarking, the recalibrating, and then the fourth leg being the business side of the work. And it's there in the competencies as well. And that struck me as one of those sessions that is so, if someone's really grounded in who they are as a coach, it's ESA to say, who we are is how we coach. So it fits so well with that business bit of coaching as well, and value proposition.
And I think for those starting off on their coaching journey, completing the coach training is, it's the first massive milestone. Completing the mentor coaching, it's another massive milestone. Getting ready for your first credential. These are all massive, massive steps, career-changing, often life-changing steps. And it is an awful lot. And so to try in amongst all that to figure out our identity as coaches, there's a lot happening there. And having somebody like a supervisor to just bounce ideas off and to get them, from the position of slightly more experienced to offer, this is what happened to me, what might resonate there. I think for me, when I'm supervised, that really helps me because, as they say, we can only reflect so far on our own. And so it's great to have that reflective partner. Katie has asked a question. I'll let Claire read it.
And we can go deeper as well. When we reflect with others, we can be challenged and supported more. So Katie's asking, what do you do maybe before a session or in life to be present in the mindset, to stay in the collaborative mindset?
It's an interesting question, Katie, because my background was as a teacher. And so I was always, as a teacher, in a position of knowing I knew what needed to be done. I had plans, I had objectives, I was leading, I was guiding. And while working collaborative with, team members, and I was quite a collaborative leader in the way that I led, largely with the student, it wasn't so, it was in a sense collaborative, but there was also an end game. So I knew where we needed to go. Whereas what I love about coaching and supervision is I don't know what the end game is. And I find that really exciting. So to start my day thinking, I have no idea I know who I'm meeting, I know what I'm going to be doing, but I have no idea what they're going to bring. And actually for me, that's kind of like one of the things that propels me forward. Being in that collaborative mindset, I am not an expert in the sector of every single client that I coach. If I coach oil and gas or a government entity, if I'm coaching somebody who works in logistics or insurance or finance, I absolutely cannot be the expert in any of those things, but I am the expert in the process, whether I'm coaching in that non-directive manner or whether I'm supervising, which for me is largely non-directive, but there can be, you know, them offering more of self or supervision in me. I tend to veer on the side of more collaborative. And I think part of that, Katie, I think is also personality. And I also, like Sarah said, I have faith that the right clients will come to me because that's what they're looking for. And on occasions, clients might say, I need a clear answer on this one. And I always seek permission before I give the clear answer. Might we just explore it a bit together? Because even that's quite collaborative. And then if they still need the clear answer from me, then I'll give it. But largely, yeah, that's just my style, I think, Katie. And I hope that answers the question. Any other questions or observations? Raluca, nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you too. I really appreciated your collaborative style. I was impressed by the space that you gave to the client, and you were warm, kind, and very supportive attitude. I thought it was very appropriate for her emotional state. I was wondering, how was this a supervision session and not a coaching session? How was it different in your mindset?
I think one of the main things that comes out for me in that respect is I shared more of myself and my experience, which absolutely in a coaching session I would not. If a client says, well, what did you do in a coaching session? My response would be, it's not about me. This session is solely focused on you if I'm coaching. In supervision, I can bring more of myself in, I can bring more of my experience, I can bring the experience of my network as well. You know, well, a colleague suggested this. How might that work or not work for you? So I think in this context with Sarah, being able to share around my experience of transitioning out of one profession into another, my experience of, you know, those daunting times of establishing my own identity as a coach, and also practicalities like, you know, you need your values clear to the world out there and you need a website set up. So those things I would not have brought into a coaching session in that way.
So the mentoring part is, in a way, yeah, part of supervision, or just revealing your own experience.
So it's sharing more of self for the benefit of the client.
Okay, thank you.
Claire, is there anything else around the supervision and coaching distinction there for that session? Because obviously I was in the session, so it's a little bit more tricky for me.
So we can open it up to the group as well. I think that would be really interesting. It's absolutely
Linda has a hand up.
And it's
Always in
fine.
Canada.
Yeah, and it's fine to supervise in a coaching style if we feel that that is needed. The focus was on her development and reflection, and it was her choice to choose supervision. And sometimes we may want coaching on the same topic, but supervision does it in, I always think of those 4 areas, the formative, normative, the business side, and the restorative. And in a short session, maybe that session could have gone restorative as well, but we can't do everything in one session. Just before we go to the next question, I did put in terms of the competencies, you know, the ethics and the contracting side was all there. And then also the offering interventions that challenge, disrupt. If there was emotions there, clearly it went to the right level. and of depth, and it was touching for the person and got them thinking. Supports the development of the supervisee's professional identity. So for me, that session so hit competency 3.5 because of that. And then 3.3D, practice, development, business challenges, and professional goals. And it's there as well. Linda.
Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and hello again.
And good morning to you.
Thank you. So Caroline, it's more of an observation, and something that I saw you do in the session where this wonderful collaborative partnership and relationship was built, and vulnerability was definitely present, and how you respected that when you received an invitation to, what do you think of me as a coach? What are my strengths that you witness? And I loved how you brought the system in. I'm going like this because you actually did that. And how can you use your system? Who would you use in your system to gather that data? So it's just an observation of how it was so respectful of where your client was, and the coach was, and how you responded to that. And it opened up a new area of exploration for her. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Something that Claire just mentioned in the competencies, and it always makes me smile, the word disrupt in 2.2, the interventions that challenge and disrupt the supervisee's existing perspectives, assumptions, paradigms. I always think the word disrupt is quite a violent word, but I think there was some disruption there. And Sarah, please dive in, because there was a shift, and without some disruption, without some challenge, we don't get shifts like that in thinking. So yeah, I think that word disrupt is an interesting one. Sarah, might we bring you in? I know that we've had a breather now, Is there anything you'd like to share around that experience of supervision?
Yeah, it was, I found it was interesting. I really appreciated Caroline sharing in the very, in the opening moments of the session, if you like. Well, can I share? And she shared her experience. Not that I need to do exactly the same thing, but it made me think, okay, I've got something to compare this to. And it did kind of spark some thoughts about how that might look for me, etc. So that was really interesting. And I didn't feel like, sometimes when I'm being coached, I feel a bit like frustrated, like, will you just tell me something? And this seems just a little less, I don't know, a little less intense. It's like, it's okay for me to say, can I have some help with this? Or could you share? Or when something is offered, it felt much more almost like a kind of natural conversation where you do share your experience with somebody, but it was done in a really good way. So I still felt quite challenged. And yes, my thinking had definitely shifted during the session.
It's been a real pleasure, Sarah, to have you here with us today. And obviously, you can catch up with me after the session if there's anything that you need. Nothing ever works out quite how we expect. And when you said I want to bring the theme of identity, I thought, right, well, I don't know how that's going to pan out. But there we are, you have something. And of course, we all know supervision doesn't have to end with an action. It doesn't always have to be action orientated. And yet you have created some actions for yourself there to get you moving forward a little bit. So thank you very much. And I think that's where we might draw our session to a close, Claire.